So today I'm going to be answering some questions that all revolve around, is it too late? Is it too late to sell your house? Is it too late to invest? Is it too late to do something about inflation? Well, we're going to talk about those coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue, where we talk about how to make money, save money, and create a great retirement. Well, I know many of you are already doing so many things to prepare for a recession, to prepare yourself to have a good retirement no matter what the economy is. But as things roll along and we get closer and closer to that edge, dropping off into that pit of recession, which we all know we're going to, sometimes you feel that little twinge of anxiety. Oh my goodness, have I missed out? A lot of what we're anxious about has to do with that fear of missing out. Oh, did I not plan for something? Did I not do something on time? Y'all, for the most part, we have all seen this coming. It's like watching a slow train wreck, right? And many of us, you all included, we've been around the block and we have been down this path before. We remember the last recession. So it makes it easier in some ways for us to understand what we need to do and don't need to do. Now I know just from recent videos I've posted, many of you are already ahead of the game. You're already living below your means. You're already conserving your cash. You're already putting back things, paying down debt, living simply, moving into a less expensive living situation. You're already doing all the things you need to do. But sometimes still those worries pop up. So I'm going to take a few of these questions that have popped up frequently and I am going to answer them or tell you what I think. Doesn't mean it's the only answer or the right answer for you necessarily, but I'm just going to give you my opinion and tell you where I think it's headed. And the first one is, don't panic. You know, people keep saying, is it too late? Is it too late to stock up? Is it too late to, really get ahead of the game? And it's like, y'all, just don't panic. You remember the great toilet paper panic, right? At least here in the States. It was ridiculous. Well, a lot of people are just waking up to the fact that things are going to be in short supply. You'd think they'd know that by now. But no, they've been just going merrily along. And the thing is, it's not that these people aren't necessarily uneducated or irresponsible or anything of that nature. They just didn't want to believe it was true. And for months and months and months, the media and lots of other people have been flat out lying about us going into a recession. And now that it's oh so obvious, a lot of people are just now getting on board and they are increasing that sense of panic. But you don't need to panic. You've already been planning for it. You've already seen it. And if these are things that are now starting to make you feel anxious, focus on what you can do for you. Don't get into other people's panic. That's what happened with the great toilet paper event. It happened some with lumber and is continuing to happen. But don't feed into that panic. Don't feed your own panic. Step back, evaluate, and decide where you're going to put your energy. Now, a question I've been getting a lot here lately is it too late for me to sell my home? The answer to that is probably yes. At this point, if you are in a really hot market still and houses are still selling where you are, man, you better get on it. And here's why. It's not just about the market being hot. It's also about those mortgage interest rates. Because people's ability to buy has been cut dramatically just in the last few months. A mortgage you could get now compared to what you could have gotten in January of 2022, your payments are almost double. That's just because of the rise in interest rates. Interest rates are going to continue to rise. That means fewer and fewer buyers. Lenders are going to start shutting down their lending. And I don't know if you have seen this yet in your market. I've seen it in mine. More and more homes are going into foreclosures. Larger companies are they're just starting the first wave of laying people off. You remember the last recession. As the recession deepens and companies get into more trouble, they lay more people off, more homes go into foreclosure, it is this ripple effect. Those foreclosures will continue to increase. Homes coming on the market will continue to increase because people are panicking, wanting to sell because they realize the market is going to crash. And it will. It did back in '08. It'll do it again. It's cyclical. It always crashes at some point, and then it'll go back up. So that's a decision you have to make. If you wanted to sell and this was your chance to get out of that large home, boy, you better be doing it, because your ability to do so and still get what you want to out of that home is diminishing daily. Now, having said that, if you sell your home at the top of the market, it means you have to find another place to live at the top of the market. And that's kind of a minus. It's funny, I just had a conversation this morning with my brother and the people across the street from him. They didn't put their house on the market because, boy, they wanted the maximum. They wanted to get as much, so they waited and waited. Well, now the market's really coming down. And so instead of the market where he lives, which used to a home would be on the market maybe 3 days, if that. Well, now they're sitting on the market for weeks. And that's because the interest rates have gone up. So they are running the risk of missing their opportunity to sell. And even if they do sell, what then? Well, he had talked to this couple, and they have a fifth wheel travel trailer, and they are planning to stay in that fifth wheel for the next 2 to 3 years because they went through the last recession too. They understand in 2 to 3 years, property is going to be cheap again. And if they can wait it out, they will have really maximized what they got for their home. They'll be able to buy another smaller home at a deeply discounted price, and they'll have that difference, that money they made, they can add to their retirement. So what they're doing is pretty smart, but they just almost missed it. And they still haven't sold their house yet. So don't wait if that is something you were planning to do. But have a plan for where you're going to live. Another question I've gotten quite a bit is, how much cash do you need? One of the things that people are worried about is access to cash. That's become a big concern here lately, especially with all the talk of us going to a mostly or pretty much cashless society. What happens if you can't access your cash? Well, I tell people it's good to keep a pretty good percentage, maybe even 20% of your money in cash. In a savings account, of course. I'm not telling you to stuff your mattress, so don't go there. In a savings account. However, you should have at least a month's worth of expenses or 2 months worth of expenses that you can access right in your home. Where I live especially, we have seen so many times where if you have a rolling blackout, and we are now at the height of one of the hottest summers we've had in years, but if you have a rolling blackout, payment systems don't work, ATMs don't work. When we have large wildfires, all the electricity goes down, the grid completely goes down, in some places for months. If you have a natural disaster happen in your area, you always want to have some access to cash. Now, not a lot. You don't want to make yourself a target or let people know you have cash in your house. But you always want to have some access to cash. No matter what people say, we are not a cashless society yet, nor should we be, because these problems I just listed have not been addressed. What do you do when people only have a 20 on them and the payment systems go down for several days or a week? What then? Well, it becomes a real issue. It gives you that little sense of security to have some cash on you that you can access or within your home. And then, of course, most of your cash in the bank where it belongs. Another question I get a lot is, okay, what can we do about inflation? Okay, you can't do anything about inflation. Inflation is inflation. However, you can understand that what people are being told, I mean, most recently it was inflation is 9% annually. When you go to the grocery store, is it 9%? I mean, if you truly believe that, you are living in la la land. Because it's not, and you know that already. You've already been to the grocery store these past 6-8 months as prices have escalated ridiculously. And you know inflation is on a runaway train right now. And even when inflation, those inflation numbers start to go down, It doesn't mean all of those prices go backwards. They might a little bit, but they won't very much. So understand that the pricing you're seeing, some of it you will continue to live with. The only thing you can do is alter your lifestyle. Understand where you want to put your money. And in years past, there were often many times, especially as a single person, it was really cheaper to go out and eat, and in some cases it still is, than it was to cook at home. But now, with restaurants dealing with inflation and lack of workers and having to raise pay and pay way more for product, eating in a restaurant is no longer cheap. As many of you know, I was just in Las Vegas. And in years past in Las Vegas, it was like the capital of eating cheap. You could get, prime rib for $5.99, and, there were all these options that were so cheap. Those days are over. I mean, completely over. Even fast food in those casinos, you can't get a meal for less than $20. Most normal meals, even a lunch, starts at $35 to $50, and dinner's over $100. It is a joke to try to go somewhere like Vegas, a resort location, and eat cheap. It doesn't happen. So we have to change our lifestyle. Many of you already have. You don't order out anymore. You are cooking at home more. You are figuring out ways to allow those dollars to compensate for those inflationary type situations. We're traveling less. We're driving less. I thought it was ridiculous because I flew to Vegas out of Albuquerque. My flight was $100 each way. It cost me $125 to go to Albuquerque just to catch the flight, which was $100 to Vegas. It was ridiculous. But that's the world we live in right now. So you alter what you're doing. You alter where you're going. You don't drive as much, or you drive with friends or whatever. But those are the ways we have to alter our lifestyle. And the sooner we do it, the sooner we can capitalize on retaining our dollars instead of wasting them trying to keep that same lifestyle when the financials have completely changed. And boy, have they. Now, some of you have asked about investing, and I know some of you aren't interested in that, but for those that are interested, let's talk about investing. No, I do not believe the market has stopped falling. In fact, I think it's just started. A lot of the earnings haven't been great, but they haven't been really, really dismal. As the year goes on, they will get really, really dismal. The market has a long way to go. Before the last recession, like October of 2007, the market was at an absolute high. At the time, that was over 19,000 points on the Dow Jones. It was over 19,000. 17 months later, in early 2009, it was down to under 10,000. It had dropped almost 50%. In fact, it was 50.2% from the highest to the lowest in 17 months. From where we stand now, it has just started to fall. Just in April, it was over 38,000. I mean, it was on a high. It's already fallen to where we are today, which is right at 31,000. It's already fallen significantly. I believe it's going to continue to drop to at least 22,000. And at that, it's still only 40%. If it drops 50%, like it did in the last recession, it could continue down. Do not let that scare you. That is to be expected. That's what happens in every recession. But as far as what you do with your investment dollars, well, toward the end of last year, I called all my family and told them to get out of the market. Get out of equities. Either go to bonds or just let it sit over in a money market until we could see what was going to happen. And at that time, I told everybody, give it 6 months. Give it 6 months and we'll see. And of course, after 6 months, we can see, oh, it's headed down, y'all. It's headed down. So my plan is to give it another probably 12 months as it continues to go down. And when it starts to really come up off a low, a big low, like 22,000, then I'm going to put my money into companies that pay dividends, something that pays an income. Because it's going to be a long time before those equities recover. It's going to be a long time before I want to pull any of that money out of the market to actually use. And by putting it into companies that pay dividends, you're going to have good solid companies, number one, that pay good dividends, and you're going to be getting that income. And you can choose whether to use that income to live off of partially or to put it back into the market when the market's on a low. That's your choice. But I am really going to focus on things that produce income, at least for the next few years, because it's going to be a long time before it comes back up, years in fact. So that is what I'm doing. And as far as how I split money or plan to split money at that time, my plan is 30% real estate, including income producing real estate. So when I buy real estate, hopefully here in the next couple of years, I'll be able to get something that's got rentals on it. I want it income producing. Everything is income producing. I'll be investing in companies that are paying dividends, income producing. And that'll be about 30%. So it's 30% real estate, 30% equities. I like to keep 20% in cash or cash equivalents, whether that be a money market account or savings account or whatever. So I have ready access to cash. So if I want to invest in something, I want to buy something, something comes up, I have access to that cash. And the other 20% I would call speculative. They might be business partnerships that I'm involved in. It might be playing big poker tournaments. That's very speculative, but I'll have about 20% of my money in a speculative investment kind of situation. And that's my choice. That's how I choose to do it. I'm in my mid-50s. Depending on where you are as far as work, as far as retirement, where you are on the spectrum of retirement, early versus late, will determine how you want to divide up and invest those dollars. And you should always, always get qualified investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor, so be sure you get qualified investment advice. So you've got to look ahead, anticipate what is coming down the road, and make moves that will benefit you long term. Now, I hope you all have gotten something out of this little Q&A. If you've enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, and I'll see you next time.